What's up, guys? Welcome back to day 10. Yes, day 10 of my 31 days of Halloween themed drawing tutorials. A new day, a new video, all Halloween theme based. Today's video, I'm going to show you how you can draw this cute cartoon vampire from start to finish, all in real time, no time lapse, which means, yeah, it's pushing about an hour long, but hopefully you guys will hang in there and draw with me. So keep watching. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and draw a vampire. Starting out, I'm using a 4000 by 4000 300 DPI canvas. For my pencil, to start out the sketch for this, I'm gonna use my HB pencil, which is part of my new pencil set for Procreate. And for my color palette, much like the previous ones in the series, I've already got this made up. You can actually download this off of my website. I'll link it in the description below. If you go to bjdell.com, go to the YouTube reference section on there, and then just save this as a JPEG. You can go up to your wrench icon, go to add, and insert a photo. It's gonna bring in that color palette just as a separate layer here. And then as you go through, you can select each of the colors as we go through just by long pressing there like I did. So let's get started. I'm gonna start with black to begin with, just for my sketch. Once again, that HB here. And I'm gonna start out just with a pretty big oval here. This is gonna be for the head. And I think I'm gonna have him kind of in a 3/4 perspective. So if I draw my center line kind of down here to help me see where all this is going. And then I'm gonna bring down the sides of the head here into the chin. And then for the body, once again, with doing any design, I start out with just really basic shapes. So you see here doing these ears, start out with just a oval and then kind of adjust those to make them sharper at the ends. I'm gonna do the same thing with the body, just some basic shapes to get the overall body shape laid in here. So you can see here how I'm doing this center line here to kind of keep my perspective in order. Kind of have one arm coming down here, and then probably have one arm kind of out, reached out here to the side, like this. I'll kind of have his hand open here. And then once again, coming down here, just a basic oval here, for kind of where the legs are gonna come in together at the belly here. And just some basic shapes coming down here for the legs. So there's that. Let's go ahead and throw in some ovals here for where the feet are gonna go. And if you guys have watched previous ones in the series where I've sketched, you'll know I go in just really loose and really kind of light with the sketch. It's pretty messy because I'm just kind of laying out where I want everything to go. This doesn't have to be perfect. I'm gonna start adding details and kind of fine tuning it as I go along. And I'll do kind of the cape collar thing coming here. Down here into the center, maybe some just ornate little folds here, like a little medallion there. Where that comes in, go ahead and kind of block off where the hand's gonna be. And then same thing over here, just kind of blocking off where this hand's gonna be. Like I said, kind of having the palm open here with the hand outstretched. So there we go, that looks pretty good. Kind of start fine tuning where the suit's gonna come from here. So it's got a little bit more shape to it. And then I can start working on the head now. So I'm gonna kind of bring up the hair here in the back, up on the side. It's gonna have that widow's peak. It's kind of the famous vampire hairstyle. Kind of bring this around as we go. Looks pretty good there. Bringing this down around a little bit further. Now we can go ahead and do the eyes here. So I have those kind of up here. So if I draw in another shape here, we You can kind of use that to decide where these eyes are going to go. And once again here, I'm just using some basic ovals to kind of map out where I want the eyes, and then I'll go back in and kind of fine tune those. So the ovals just say, okay, this is the general area where the eyes are going to go, and then I can start pulling different shapes out of those shapes. Just going to help me visualize it a little bit better. Go ahead and get these pupils in here. Make that one a little bit smaller on this side. There we go. And then get the nose kind of blocked off in here. Kind of have this a little bit upturned, so it's going to have some shadow there at the bottom. I'll bring that around into the bridge of the nose. Maybe just have it square off like that. That looks pretty cool. And then let's go ahead and give him a mouth here, maybe like a big smile. Off to the side, gonna have his bottom fangs here peeking out. And then lip down at the bottom. And then this coming down into the chin there. And kind of pull this forehead down into the brow here. Maybe back out. Once again, just kind of getting the overall flow of the design. Doesn't have to be perfect right now. So that looks pretty good there. And I think then to give him something in his hand here, let's just have a bat coming out of his hand, kind of flying off his hand. I already did a tutorial on the bat. So this one, instead of making it like some crazy, really detailed design, I'm just going to do just a really kind of quick, cheesy looking round bat here just to speed up this process. I'll just give him a little mouth here. The fangs coming out. I think that looks pretty good. So we've got the basic design done now. So let's go ahead and start inking this. So to do that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go up to my layers. I'm going to make a new layer. This is going to be our inks layer. And then for our sketch layer here, I'm going to hit the blending mode here with the N. And I'm just going to turn down the opacity on this so that drops it down and we can't see it as well. Just kind of the light sketch peeking through. And then we're going to start to ink then on layer 2. So I'm going to go back up to my brushes now, and I'm going to switch over to my cartooning set, my standard inker and standard inker streamline. I'll play around with these and switch back and forth depending on what kind of line that I'm doing. So let's go ahead and start with that. I'm going to start with the standard inker streamline. I'm going to go in here, and before I start, I kind of want to decide where my light source is coming from. And I think for this one, we'll kind of have the light source coming in from this right-hand side. So that means everything on this left-hand side is going to kind of have a little bit more of a shadow to it. But this helps us really decide how we're going to do our lines and our line weight. Everything with a shadow is going to be a little bit heavier and thicker of a line. Everything closer to that light source is going to be a little bit thinner of a line. So that kind of helps us determine that before we even start. So let's go ahead, and I think I'm just going to start with the nose here and start to pull my lines around. And with this, like I've talked about before, I'm not really worried about having each and every single one of these inking lines match up 100% perfect with my sketch lines. The sketch is more just kind of a suggestion for me where everything should go. I don't have to have it follow and trace every single line. Like I've said before, I think if you worry too much about that, the design starts to feel a little bit too mechanical and you want a little bit more of an organic feel to it. And being able to just not really have to rely 100% on your sketch is kind of the idea that we're going for when we start to lay this in. Get this pupil in here. Oops. My circle didn't want to lock in, so I'll just draw by hand there. Bring this around. Get the kind of reflection there on the pupils. That looks good. It's good. And once again, I didn't even draw in eyebrows here, but I'm going to draw those in now. So I usually like to have the bottom line a little bit heavier and then the top line a little bit lighter. It just makes it feel, once again, kind of shadowed there on the bottom. So there's that one. Let's go ahead and do the one here on the right hand side. There we go. And let's go ahead and add, I think I'm going to move actually this one up a little bit because I want to add some creases here underneath the eyes, or on top of the eyes underneath the eyebrows, and I didn't really have enough room to do it with that one that I already did. So let's try that again here. There we go, that works a little bit better. Gives me a little bit more room to do that. So there's that. Let's go ahead and get the mouth in here now. And you'll see with these brushes too, you get some really nice tapers with these. There's really kind of a learning curve with this, so you do have to kind of practice as far as how much pressure to apply, when you let up pressure to give that taper, and just kind of a back and forth thing. Just put some time into it if you decide to get these brushes and play around with them to get a little bit more comfortable with how they feel. Let's go ahead and get the side of the head in here towards the bottom. I think I want that a little bit more curved here. There we go. Get the chin in here. And then we'll bring up this face around here. There's that. So it looks good. Go ahead and get the ear in here. Again, we're towards the back now, so a little bit heavier line weights here. Coming around. And then I'll get the hair coming down in here in front of the ear. I'm going to start over here first. That widow's peak coming around there, and then back up here and kind of overlap in the front there. Bring this one back around and down in front of that ear. And having it come back and around here. It's getting a little bit thicker on the back there. And just connecting those two lines together. I'll bring this one up and connect as well. So there's that. Let's go ahead and get this side of this hair coming in here. That back and around and connected back here. I'll have that line a little bit thicker down here too. All right, there we go. So we've got the hair there. That might be a little bit close to the edge. It looks like it's kind of bleeding off, even though it's not when you zoom back out. So I'm just going to pull that in just a little bit tighter. All right, so there is that. Let's go ahead and start working on, we get the ear over here then. Kind of pull this back a little bit so I can see that other one and make it as close as possible to the shape. Got that ear there. Let's go ahead now, and I think I'm going to pull the cape down and around. So starting back up here. And I want this to come just underneath that chin. There we go. And then likewise here, I think I'll get the circle in here for that kind of medallion or amulet right there. Pulling in the right side now. I think that needs to come out just a little bit more this way, like that. That looks a little bit better. And I want to thin up that line since it is closer to that light source. So there we go. And let's go ahead and draw on the sleeve here. I want to kind of have the shirt coming out here, almost like that kind of fluffy wrist with the folds to it. Very vampire-esque. There's that. Let's go ahead and work on this hand. Once again, here, I've just kind of got the overall shape, so I'm going to kind of build up the fingers now as I come around. There we go. I've got the hand in there. Pull this down for the suit jacket. Pull that up. Once again, I didn't connect that all the way. I've got just a nice taper here, so it's going to kind of come off into that arm. So it's not totally connected. Bring the arm around here. Once again, this bottom's going to be a little bit heavier line weight. Since it is on the bottom, it's going to have a little bit more of a shadow to it. There's that. It's again kind of that fluffy part of the shirt here. Looks good. I'm going to come back down here now before I start working on that. And let's get the, actually let's do this first. Let's get the extra stuff around here in. There we go. And now let's go ahead and do the pants. So I'm going to bring the sleeve down. I'm going to pull it in just a little bit further than what I had it initially. Once again, not really worrying 100% about sticking to that sketch. It allows me to go in and make changes as I need to on my final design. On that leg there. Then let's get these feet in here. Just really simple shapes for the shoes, nothing too fancy. Kind of breaks off here at the back for the heel and then back up towards the front. So there's that. Once again, this is getting kind of close to the bottom, so I might move this guy up just a tad bit, just because that kind of blends in to the edge of the canvas there. And then let's give him a cape too. I didn't draw a cape in here, but I do want a cape. So let's just see if I can do this without sketching it. Maybe. That's not too bad. Pull up a thinner line here on the inside where that's going to connect. And it's going to be the darker part of the cape, and then we'll probably have like the inside like a red. There we go. So we got the cape in there. Next up, let's go ahead and get the hand worked in here. So let's pull the wrist out just a tad bit. I'm going to draw the palm here towards the front. Oops. Erase this part here. Palm coming back here into the first finger. And I want to make sure that the hands kind of look the same. So make that just a tad bit bigger here. That looks good. Draw another finger here. Another one. Oops. And this is where maybe I should have just sketched this in a little bit better. So I had a little bit more to go off of. I'll have to see if this is going to be right when I pull back out further and see how it looks zoomed out. Not too bad. I think this could probably have a little bit more of a curve there to the palm and back up. Let's erase that and let's try it again. I don't really like the look of that, so let me go in here now. I'm going to sketch this a little bit more to get this locked in here. So I usually start out with just kind of the overall shape of the whole hand here. So that's going to be the palm and everything. And as this comes up, the fingers are going to kind of splay back towards the back. And then the thumb is going to kind of come out the other way there. And let's erase this. Have this one pulled in a little bit more here. Then we can just kind of have that one tapered off there in the center. I think that looks a little bit better. And then the wrist is going to break right there. So that looks good. I think now I got a good enough feel for it. I can go in there a little bit darker here with the ink now. So let's try this again. All right, so back to my brush. Let's get, I want to make sure not too dark, not too light as far as the thickness. Pulling a kind of tapered line here across those middle ones. Tapered line here. And back for the thumb. Let's pull back out now and see. I think that looks a lot better. So we'll stick with that. Let's go up to the bat now. And I'm just gonna draw just an oval here for the bat. Actually, let me see. I don't want to get this too thick. Go ahead and do it with my finger here. That looks pretty good. Like I said, not sticking to that at all with that one especially. A little bit lighter towards the top and then heavier here at the bottom. And these are going to be lighter on the inside as well. For the wings, same thing here, lighter towards the top, heavier towards the bottom because of that light source. Might be a little bit too heavy. Make that a little bit more curved there around the top. There we go. Pull these lines up. Once again, lighter lines coming up. Looks good. Let's get the face in there. Pretty big oval for the one eye here. And a smaller one for this one. Get the pupils in there. Erase here for the highlights. Make this one a little bit bigger, that one a little bit smaller. And then the mouth. There we go. Draw a couple lines here around the eyes. Those look a little bit more inset. And go ahead and give them some eyebrows here too. All right, so there we go. We got the bat. Now I kind of want to do a little line here showing him flying out of the hand. So let's just draw a line up there like that. And then we'll just kind of dash this by erasing. Kind of shows that movement from leaving his hand and flying out. One of the old school like cartooning tricks. There's that. And then I'm going to switch back to just my standard inker here. And I think I'm going to add in some just kind of motion lines around the wings so that those look like they're moving. There we go. Maybe just a couple of little details in here. Kind of add in some textures there. That looks good. And then do this back line here for that other color of the cape there. Okay, so there's our inks. I think we're pretty much done with that. So let's go ahead and start on our colors here. So to do this, let's go ahead and turn off our sketch layer. And then we're going to go ahead and add a new layer. We're going to drag and drop this behind. This is going to be our color flats layer. So we can drag and drop colors here. What we're going to do is we're going to go up to layer 2. We're going to set this as reference. And then that's going to allow us to drop all of our colors down here on layer 3. So let's start out going to our color palette. This first color here to the right of the black, this is blue. We're going to use that for the skin tone of Mr. Vampire. So we'll just drag and drop the colors in here. And then this hand here. And that's it then for the vampire himself. So back up here then, we've got this gray color. Let's go ahead and just use this for pretty much everything else. We'll do the hair, the eyebrows, the suit, and the pants. So there's a pretty big chunk there. And then let's go ahead and do, let's see, white next. We need to do the eyes here. I'm going to turn off that background layer so we can see what needs to be white. We can fill these in just like this. So there's that. And then, of course, we've got the eyes of the bat, but I think I'm going to do those a different color. Let's do the sleeves here. And just notice, I think, yeah, we've got to fill in here. It's kind of open there, so I need to do like a shirt or something in there. So let's go back up to our layer of our inks then, and I'm just going to draw in just like a collar here for a shirt, kind of like a dress shirt type of thing. I think that looks pretty good. Let me try it one more time. I went over the edges there. There we go. So I'm going to switch back to my main color. And once again, making sure we switch back to our layer that we need to be on for the colors. Let's drag and drop that white for the shirt in there. There's that. Let's go ahead and get the cape now. So if we go back up to our colors and go to our red, start to drag this in here to the inside of the cape. Then also the little fringes and furls around here. There we go. Next up, let's see, color yellow. Let's do that center yellow. And
yellow is the color between orange and green on the spectrum of visible light.
There you go. If you don't know, now you know. So there's that, and then switching back here, let's go to green. We'll do the color green for these eyes here, and then also the iris around inside of his eyes. And then back to that gray color for those sides of the cape here. And then this darker black color then for the shoes. I want these to stick out a little bit more than the pants so they don't blend in too much. And I think that makes it a little bit more obvious that those are a different color. So that's good there. Let's go ahead and do the bat next. So we'll just use this dark gray for the bat. And then let's just use this blue in here for the inside of the wings. And there we go. There's the bat flying off, and it kind of plays into the color palette that we've got for him. So that works out pretty well. And that's pretty much it for the color flats. Let's turn off our background just to make sure. We still got the white there for the teeth and the eyes on the bat. So let's get that real quick, and then we can move on to shadows and highlights. Get these filled in. All right, turn it back on now. And there we go. Got the color flats done. So let's move on to shadows and highlights next. So to do that, let's go ahead and make a new layer here. And we're going to go ahead and set this to clipping mask. So this is going to allow us to color in on this layer using this as kind of the guide of where all the colors go. So we can't color outside of what we've done on these. Makes it real nice and easy. And doing it on a separate layer instead of setting this to alpha lock and drawing on it allows us to actually adjust the opacity and get those shadows and highlights fine-tuned and dialed in. So let's start out doing that now. So to do this, let's go ahead, go back up to the color palette, and I'm going to start out with this purple here. That's what we're going to use for the skin tone. That's going to be the shadows on the skin tone. Using my standard inker here, I'm just going to fill in just a pretty big portion of this. And I don't want to go over the hair here because I'm going to do that a different color here. for shadows. I'm just going to kind of pull this around, and then you're going to see, once I get a pretty big section filled in here, I'm going to go in and play around with the opacity to get it looking exactly like I want it to look. Hold in a little bit there over the eyebrows. Let's go and erase that. And now that I've got a big enough section, I'm going to go ahead and kind of pull back out here. And then I'm going to go up to the layers menu, go to blending mode, and then drop down the opacity on this until I get it to have a pretty good look to it. I think right now, let's see, probably about 23, 24 looks pretty good. Go with 23. I think that looks good there. So we got that in there. So now we're going to go in and kind of build this up a little bit more. I'm gonna kind of remove some stuff, add some stuff. And you'll see here, I'm just kind of following these lines as my guide to where these shadows are gonna go and how they flow kind of with the design. It just makes everything look a little bit more natural and like it should if you follow along with some of those lines that you started here in the first place with the actual inking layer, following this tooth back around and then having it curve up into that cheek there. Just flows really nice with what we've already got there. Same thing here, kind of pulling it down, tapered towards where it meets there, and then back down around that part where that chin comes in. Underneath there, do some under here as well. Underneath the nose here. And if you still have this set to reference to places like that nose, you could actually drag and drop. If line or the lines layer is still set to reference, I could have drag and dropped that in there and made it a little bit quicker. If you turn off reference though, it's not going to work. Keep that in mind. Go around here, the top of this eye. Oh man, I just looked at my time. This is going to be like one of the longer tutorials for the month of October. So hopefully you guys hang in there for the whole thing. And don't ever feel like you need to rush through these tutorials. If you need to come back and pause and rewind and watch again certain parts. I know I go through pretty quick on these, but then again too, I mean, it's already half an hour in and I'm not done yet and we still got a decent amount to go. So I try to keep them watchable. I know some kind of designs like this, I could take, 2 or 3 hours on, and I don't think that's going to make the best tutorial on YouTube. It might be something I do later on with some other stuff, but for YouTube, I think that's a little bit too long. So hopefully I can come in maybe, 45, 50 minutes on this one. We'll see. And I'll go ahead and do some shadows in here on the cape. Still using that same purple color. It actually plays pretty decent here with the red, and I like the shadow it gives off, so we'll just keep using that. That kind of bring in the shadow here around in the back too. This one's going to have a pretty big shadow on it. Have some tapered lines coming up here too for shadows. And then this is going to be a solid color here for the shadow. And I've talked about before, I don't like having it a solid color because the viewers might not know and be able to tell that that's shadowed in just because there's no other color there except the shadow. So I just usually pull out a little bit of that color and it shows, yep, there's two different colors there. So that looks pretty good there. Let's go ahead and add a little bit in here on the hand. Not too much, but just a tad. Looks good there. Let's get underneath here a little bit. And then under this arm as well. Whoop. We're not doing the arm yet though, because that's that other color and we don't want that with the purple. I've got another color for that, so we'll hold off on that. Erase a little bit in here. All right, so I think that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and do the wings for the bat next. Get those in here, shadowed underneath. Around this one. Once again, I'm following that same curve, those same lines that I did with the outlines. So it just looks natural. We'll see what this looks like on the eyes. I'm not sure. Yeah, I think that looks okay. We do some shadows with that on the eyes. I wasn't sure with that green, if the purple was going to be the best choice or if it was going to be the next color we're going to use, but I think that works. So that looks good. And we'll go underneath here, underneath the chin, and then underneath the shirt collar there, maybe one back here around the yellow. All right. So we're good now on this. Just a tad bit shadows here underneath the irises to kind of break those up a little bit. So now we're going to switch colors here and add some more shadows. So if we go to the darker color here, it's not completely black, but pretty close. That's what we're going to use for the shadows on the hair and the shadows on the outfit. I think this is just a little bit too light though. So this is why it's good to use separate layers sometimes for shadows, so you can control the opacity separate from each other. So I'm gonna set this to clipping mask again, and I'm gonna start to just fill in, once again, a pretty big section of this hair back here, so I can see what it looks like. Pull this around, and then I'm gonna just use some big, thick, tapered lines out here into the rest of the hair there. And then I'm also gonna shadow in the inside of the ear down here a little bit more. Since that whole ear is shadowed already, I need to make this darker, and we can do that just by adding this extra shadow on that separate layer. This is one of the times where it's good to combine extra shadow layers too, so you got two separate ones. So let's go ahead then, go back up to our layers. Let's drop the opacity of this and see what it looks like. And I think probably about 30 looks pretty good. Not too dark, not too light. So we'll set that at 30. And then we're gonna bring some more shadows around here. This cape coming down here, we're gonna have a shadow, and you're gonna see it's gonna come over that red that we already did. So that's gonna have basically two different shadows to it now, which I like. Back of this sleeve have a shadow here. And I'll erase a little bit there. Same thing here with the pants. This one back here, a little bit more of a shadow. Then we're gonna have to darken in the shadow here as well on the red. I totally missed that one. So if we go back to that shadow layer that we used the purple on, and then drop the shadows in there, erasing at the bottom then to remove just a little bit. And there we go. So I'm gonna move back up here then, go back to that shadow color that I was using, go back to my layer 5, which is my darker shadow like that, almost black, but not quite. Go ahead and get this in here. I'm just going to shadow that completely in there. And then just do a little bit of a removal there towards the front. Same thing here, coming up underneath the suit, maybe back down and around here. And then this back side with the leg. Some taper out there. Get a little bit better of a taper there, and I'm just following along. You'll see, actually I'm not even gonna do a taper, just following along with that line that I've already got there. Maybe get this tapered a little bit better in the center here. And that looks pretty good. All right, so let's go ahead and get some more shadows here on the back of the suit coat, and maybe a couple of folds here, so it looks like the fabric's creased a little bit. Those I just kind of do that squiggly stuff like that, kind of makes that fold or fabric crease. There's that, maybe a couple more here on the back of the sleeve as well. All right, so that looks good. Let's move back up to the hair here, and let's pull a little bit of shadow here. And then once again, I kind of want to remove some here, and we can maybe do a couple of kind of crazy lines like that for those. And I think I'm going to go back in now with this gray black that I'm on now, and I'm going to add an extra shadow here around the bottom of this eye. So see, this one's got a shadow and it's the same shadow as this one. So by adding in this extra shadow here, it's going to kind of darken this up. It's going to look a little bit different, which is what I'm going to go for. Leave just a hint of that other one there towards the front, so you can still tell that. And then maybe another one here underneath the brow. I'm gonna go ahead and add some in here to the brow. We can go ahead and add some tapers there too. We could even go in here with the black, going back to our lines layer, and you could pull in some extra lines like this, tapered lines there to show that. You could do the same thing here towards the front too, if you wanted to pull in actual inked lines to do some of this work as well. And you can pull some more down here in the back too. Totally up to you how you want to do it, how much inking details that you want to add in there. So there we go. Let's go ahead and go back to our shadows layer with the darker ones. I'm going to get the bottom of this here. And a little bit underneath here too. Looks good. Couple dots there. All right, so that looks good. This is on my inks. Let's get rid of that. Let's go up to the bat and add some here. So just some shadows here around the bottom. Looks like I kind of went over the edge there. So on my darker inks layer, or darker shadows layer now, we'll just bring some shadows down here. Around here at the bottom of the eye too, to make those look a little bit more inset like we were going for. Hopefully we're good on time here too, because I can just hear the fan on my camera kick in. So hopefully this thing won't shut off on me. All right, so there's that. Now let's do some highlights here. So to do this, once again, new layer. And we're going to go to white now. This is going to be our highlights layer. We're going to set this to clipping mask as well. And let's just start out on the hair here. And once again, just going to pull in some tapered lines across like this to give off that kind of shine and the hair look that we're going for. And now that we've got a decent amount in there, we can go ahead, going back up to our layers, our blend mode, and dropping down our opacity. I'm going to drop this down to, let's see, about 30. maybe 25%. I think that looks good. I'm gonna go back in here and kind of add some more around here. Just kind of pulling those up. And I think I want to add some here too off to the sides. Vampires a lot of times have that gray streak there on the temples. So we can add that, even though this is kind of a young looking vampire, almost like a kid, we can still add that gray in there. I think it'll look kind of cool. Once again, just using tapered lines here to make that look like that's coming out there. Then also here, if you want to just pull some tapered lines around like this, you can add in a little bit more hair look to it. Of course, this isn't super realistic. We're going for that cartoon look, so it kind of adds in what we're going for style-wise. There's that. Maybe pull in a little bit more here towards the top where that's coming from light source-wise. And then down around the front of the face, we'll look and see. That's maybe a little bit too light. You can't see it. So once again, we're going to add a new highlight layer now because that blue is a lot lighter than that black or the gray. We're going to set this to clipping mask, and then we're going to draw some highlights around here, and then we'll go in and adjust the opacity. You'll see, I think we had that other one set to, what was it, like 25 or 30? This is going to be more towards probably, I'm guessing, like 70%. So let's go ahead and go to our adjustments now and drop this down, and maybe about 63, 64. So yeah, close to the 70, I guessed. And then we can just kind of add some more highlights around here. So once again, the light source is coming from this way, so we'll kind of pull some in here towards the front and around the front of the face there. Again, around that ear. Kind of have them curve down the cheek here. And then around the fingers here towards the front. Maybe on the palm here and here. Have some there. And on the lip here, the bottom lip coming out. And yeah, I think that looks good. So now let's go ahead, go back to our hair layer here, and we're going to add the highlights for the coat. We're just going to go down that front side again. Nothing too crazy. And I've talked about this before. I usually end up using more shadows than I do highlights. It's just how I tend to work. Don't go too crazy with the highlights. Use this towards the front of the shoes too, so those have kind of a shine to them, and you can see that line breaking up the shoes there too, where the toe comes in. Pulling back out a little bit, see what we're left with. All right, get some highlights here on our guy. Once again, going back to that layer 7, which is the body color highlight. I think I want the highlights here to be just a little bit brighter on the bat since he's a little bit closer to that light. So I'm not switching back to that other layer. I'm doing this on the one for the skin. That's going to make those highlights just a little bit brighter. I think that's going to work a little bit better for where he's at. Let's get a couple of fun little detail lines in here. There's that, and let's see. Let's give him some freckles too. I think that would look cute. So we go back to our purple and go back to our shadows layer there with the purple. We can just kind of drop some freckles in around him. Kind of gives off that younger appearance that we're going for. I think that's pretty adorable. And then let's do a background real quick. So to do this, going down to layer 1, we're going to go ahead and make a new layer. I'm going to go back up to my colors here, and I'm going to select this yellow. I'm just going to draw a circle around here. Kind of have this moon type of thing behind him. And I have reference still turned on, so I need to turn that off. And then that layer 8, I'm going to drag the color back in there. So that's in there. Let's go ahead and to do this next, let's use an eraser here. I'm gonna switch over to my Halloween spooky tree. So this one is available for free. If you guys missed it in the previous 2 episodes where I used this, you can download this for free off of Gumroad. I'll link that in the description below. But using the eraser then, I'm just gonna erase a tree in that circle. And then I'm gonna go back to my cartooning pencils and my streamline here. I'm just gonna drag around here and maybe do a couple of graves in here. This is just basically a negative. I'm erasing the yellow here. So instead of drawing in and adding stuff, I am removing it, and it's gonna work almost like a silhouette across here. I think it's gonna turn out pretty cool doing it this way. Do a cross up here. Circle around there. That looks good. Another grave here. Some just tapered lines out here to kind of represent some overgrown weeds and stuff like that coming up. Get this in a little bit closer here. Get these tapered a little bit better. All right, so there we go. I think one last thing I want to do, going back to my purple and going back to the shadows here, is just draw a couple of circles here in the eyes, give that a little bit more going on. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and sign it. So going back to my black here and my lines layer. Get this thing signed, and there we go. I know this one's a little bit longer, pushing an hour almost, but day number 10 of my 31 days of Halloween drawing tutorials. Hopefully you liked today's video. If you did, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Helps other people see the video and get a chance to watch it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that bell for notifications so you can get alerted when I post new videos. If you guys follow along with any of the tutorials that I'm doing this month in October, feel free to post them online. If you're putting them on Twitter or Instagram, tag me at BJDell, or else you can also put them over on Facebook in the art group that I have over there. It's called Keep Creating, a group for artists by artists. I'll link it in the description below. Bunch of people posting daily their designs based on these tutorials, and I love to see them. It's so awesome, and appreciate you guys following along. As for me, I can also be found online, bjdell.com, as well as my new podcast, Make Money with Your Art, available wherever you listen to podcasts at. So that's it for today. I will be back tomorrow for day number 11. Hopefully you guys will be back as well. Seems like I've been doing this forever now, and it's only day 11. After that, I've still got 20 more days. Oh my goodness, am I gonna be able to do it? I will, time will tell, but I'm gonna stick in with it. Will you guys stick with me? I hope so. So that's it. Until next time, keep creating.